I'm obliged to take the floor to respond to some comments. The representative of Israel perhaps did not listen attentively to all council members and other speakers in today's debate. And in our view, it is unacceptable, indeed ludicrous, for an aggressor, an occupier, a serial violator of UN Charter and international law, that is Israel, to abuse this chamber and disrespect the sanctity of this council. And this is not the first time. And by pointing fingers on others, baseless assertions primarily aimed at masking its own illegal actions and violations of international law. President, but that's not at all surprising. It is an occupier that does not listen to anyone, that does not pay heed to any advice, even from its friends, if there are any left, that refutes, and not just refutes, it threatens members of the international community, international media, international human rights and humanitarian organizations, doesn't listen to the ICJ or the ICC, and threatens the UN and its senior officials. And it does that with impunity, shielded by its apologists who time and again acquiesce in its illegal actions and defiance of the international community. And like all occupiers, despite being the aggressor, it feigns and plays the victim. But today it is totally exposed. President, this Council has spent decades discussing the situation in the Middle East and the Palestinian question. Meeting after meeting, we devote hours to this agenda. It is not because of anyone else. It is because of Israel that refuses to vacate its illegal occupation, and that blatantly violates the resolutions of this Council. It's because of that we have these discussions. Israel also chose to refer to an unrelated incident and make misleading remarks regarding Pakistan in an effort to justify its own illegal actions and violations of international law. Pakistan's position on that incident has been clearly stated and is publicly available. The international community is well aware of Pakistan's frontline role and sacrifices in the international community's fight against terrorism. The entire world, including our partners, acknowledge that Al-Qaeda was largely decimated due to Pakistan's counterterrorism efforts. And we remain committed in this global, collective endeavor. We cannot accept insinuations from an irresponsible rogue state that is, in fact, the perpetrator of worst kind of state terrorism that we are witnessing in Gaza and, in fact, in the occupied Palestinian territories for decades. and we reject any false analogy, as has also been done by Qatar. For whatever way it interprets the statements in this Council, the occupying power must go back and read carefully the statement issued by the Security Council today. And let me read it out loud here. A statement that normally should have been stronger, but nevertheless it has been unanimously adopted by the Council. The members of the Security Council expressed their condemnation of the recent strikes in Doha, the territory of a key mediator, on 9 September. They expressed deep regret at the loss of civilian life. Council members underscored the importance of de-escalation and expressed their solidarity with Qatar. They underlined their support for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar in line with the principles of the UN Charter. Council members recalled their support for the vital role that Qatar continues to play in mediation efforts in the region and alongside Egypt and the United States. Council members underscored that releasing the hostages, including those killed by Hamas, and ending the war and suffering in Gaza must remain our priority. In this regard, they reiterated the importance of the ongoing diplomatic efforts of Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, and called for the parties to seize the opportunity for peace. That is why we are here this afternoon in this Council. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. The representative of Israel has asked for the floor to make a further statement. I give them
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, if the distinguished colleague from Pakistan wanted to read the statement, he could have done it at the beginning of the session. But I want to refer to your words. You know, maybe you got offended from the word of my speech, and I apologize for that. But I make sure that in my speech I stick to the facts. And the fact is that Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan, and no one condemned the US. And when other countries in this council attack terrorists, no one condemns them. And that is the issue of double standards. When you apply different standards on Israel, then the standard you apply on yourselves, that is the problem of this institution. So yes, you cannot change the fact that 9/11 happened, and today we mark this day. You cannot change the fact that Osama bin Laden was in Pakistan and he was killed on your territory. But I would ask you, when you criticize us, and I'm sure it will continue in the future, think about the issue of double standards, which standards you apply to your country and which standards you apply to Israel. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Israel for the statement. I now give the floor to those council members who wish to make statements. I give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
Thank you, President. At the outset, I would like to thank Under-Secretary General Di Carlo for her briefing. We meet once again in the wake of yet another grave and unlawful act committed by the Israeli authorities. In addition to the endless record of their systematic violations of international law. Israel behaves as if law does not exist, as if borders are illusions, as if sovereignty itself is a dispensable notion, as if the UN Charter is an ephemeral text. Meanwhile, in Gaza, innocent lives are annihilated by the thousands, The world watches helplessly, horrific image of destruction, devastation, and human despair. Yet, even that current carnage in Gaza is not enough for the Israeli authorities. In the span of days, Israel has struck Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and now a renowned peace broker, the state of Qatar. This is not strength. It is recklessness. It is the sign of madness. It is the conduct of an extremist government unborn by immunity, by impunity. A government dragging the region and the whole world toward the abyss. Mr. President, Algeria strongly condemns and denounces the cowardly Israeli aggression that targeted the Qatari capital, Doha. We express our full solidarity with the brotherly state and people of Qatar. The recent attack in Doha is more than a violation of sovereignty of a UN member. It is an affront to diplomacy itself. It targeted a commended mediator working tirelessly to end the bloodshed in Gaza. It is irrefutable proof that the Israeli occupying power does not seek peace, does not seek peace, does not seek the release of hostages, does not seek the end of hostilities, but thrive on war. President, Israel persists in relying solely on the arrogance of brutality, mistaking oppression for power and coercion for security. Yet, history taught us that the path of domination yields neither peace nor stability. Violence brings violence. Impunity breeds war. Silence in the international community and of this very Security Council fuels chaos. And yet, this very council remains constrained, unable even to name the aggressor, to qualify aggression as a violation of international law. Mr. President, when will the international community awaken to its responsibilities? When will it deter the occupier? When will it halt the crimes and curb this reckless escalation threatening the entire region? The region, and indeed the world, demand meaningful action. Action to end aggression. Action to hold the occupying power accountable. Action to break the cycle of impunity. This Council must use all its tools, including sanctions, before it is too late. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Algeria for the statement, and I give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. We thank you for convening this urgent meeting at the request of Algeria, Pakistan, and Somalia, and supported by other Council members. We also thank Under Secretary General De Carlo for her briefing. We welcome the presence of His Excellency Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdurrahman Al Thani, the Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar. We also welcome the participation of the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Jordan, the representatives of UAE, Turkey, Iraq, Kuwait, and Egypt to this meeting. Pakistan condemns in the strongest possible terms the illegal and unprovoked Israeli aggression against the brotherly state of Qatar. This reckless and provocative attack constitutes a flagrant violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar, contrary to the fundamental principles of international law, including the UN Charter, in particular its Article 2.4, prohibiting the threat or use of force. As the Prime Minister of Pakistan has stated, this act of aggression by Israel is totally unjustified and constitutes a most dangerous provocation that could imperil regional peace and stability. The Israeli strikes targeted a residential neighborhood, deliberately endangering civilians, and thus also constitute a grave breach of international humanitarian law. This brazen and illegal assault is not an isolated incident. Rather, it is part of a broader and consistent pattern of aggression and violation of international law by Israel that undermines regional peace and stability. Pakistan expresses its complete solidarity with the government and people of Qatar and fully supports their inalienable right to take all necessary measures in accordance with the UN Charter to defend their sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the safety of all persons within their territory. In a gesture of solidarity and regional unity, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, His Excellency Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, accompanied by a high-level delegation, including the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Pakistan, is visiting Qatar today. The visit underscores Pakistan's unwavering support for the security and sovereignty of Qatar and its commitment to peace and stability in the Middle East. Mr. President, this irresponsible action by Israel is yet another manifestation of its systematic disregard for international law and its brazen policy of destabilizing the region. It adds to its long and dubious record of aggression, brutal military actions in Gaza, repeated cross-border strikes in Syria, Lebanon, Iran, and Yemen, all of which amount to violations of the UN Charter and international humanitarian law. Such acts of aggression, as defined by UN General Assembly Resolution 3314, also set a dangerous precedent, erode the primacy of rule of law, and breed a culture of impunity that threatens the security of all states. In view of the gravity of the situation, an extraordinary Arab-Islamic summit will take place in Doha on 15 September, with a view to ensuring a united response to Israel's aggression and to reaffirm the primacy of international law and the UN Charter. Pakistan will participate in this important meeting at the high level. Mr. President, at a time when delicate negotiations on Gaza peace deal were progressing towards a possible breakthrough, striking the territory of a principal mediator and those directly involved in negotiations is a deliberate attempt to sabotage diplomacy, derail peace efforts, and prolong the suffering of civilians. It is evident that Israel, the occupying power, is bent on doing everything to undermine and blow up every possibility of peace. It also raises serious questions whether the return of hostages was indeed a priority. Clearly, Israel's destructive policies are incompatible with the international community's quest for peace and stability. Sadly, it has been emboldened by the weak response and inaction by this Council. Pakistan commends Qatar's important and constructive role in facilitating mediation efforts, including for a ceasefire and release of hostages, which has been widely and consistently appreciated by all Council members, together with the role of Egypt and the United States. We recognize Qatar's tireless and principled engagement with all parties, often under most challenging circumstances, to keep the channels of dialogue open and advance prospects of peace. Qatar has consistently demonstrated leadership, wisdom, and commitment to humanitarian principles, working in close coordination with regional and international partners to bridge divides, promote peace, reduce tensions, and alleviate the plight of the Palestinian people. Undermining such a credible and indispensable mediator threatens to extinguish one of the few viable pathways towards a just and lasting peace. Targeting Qatar is thus not only an attack on a sovereign state, but also an attack on diplomacy and mediation itself. Pakistan welcomes the Security Council's condemnation of the strikes in Doha and expression of support for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar in line with the principles of the UN Charter. The Council must go beyond, must hold Israel accountable, safeguard the role and protection of mediators engaged in peace efforts, and recommit to the centrality of international law and the UN Charter in maintaining international peace and security. Mr. President, the root cause of recurring crises and instability in the Middle East is Israel's prolonged occupation of Arab lands and its persistent defiance of international law and international legitimacy. Durable peace can only be achieved through a comprehensive political settlement, including an end to the occupation of Arab lands, particularly the occupied Palestinian territories. Pakistan calls for an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire across Gaza and all occupied Palestinian territories. Full and unimpeded humanitarian access to the besieged and starved Palestinian population, and reinvigoration of a genuine and irreversible political process to end the Israeli occupation, leading to the realization of a sovereign, viable, and contiguous Palestinian state based on the pre-1967 borders, with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. Pakistan stands shoulder to shoulder with the leadership and the brotherly people of Qatar in defense of their sovereignty, dignity, and territorial integrity. We remain steadfast in our commitment to uphold the principles of international law and the UN Charter, and to work with the international community to secure lasting peace in the Middle East. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement.
Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.